Senator Greg Ball, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
And you said your top legislative priority is this Jobs for Heroes program. It would give contract preference for state contracts to disabled veterans. Right. And the governor actually, in his State of State, came out in support of it. Tell me a little bit about that bill. Why is it a top priority for you?
Yeah, it is exciting news that the governor has come out and shown his support. We've been pushing this now for several years. It's passed the Senate repeatedly. The Assembly has not necessarily done so. We have a great sponsor in Assemblyman Ortiz. You know, veterans, specifically service-disabled veterans, have twice, if not worse, unemployment rates, especially in New York State. And this just isn't it's not a handout, it's a hand up, it's an opportunity. And it will allow businesses that are owned by service-disabled vets to connect to billions of dollars in state contracting, creating tens of thousands of jobs. And the good news is that vets hire vets. So it's going to be something that 44 other states have done, and we need to get on the ball.
And the governor said the target would be 5% that he would like to see. Does the legislation have a target in there? Do you like that 5%?
Yeah, initially 5% is a good number. Initially, we actually matched the federal set aside of 3%. 5%, anything higher is welcomed, and to the extent that we can work together to make it happen. We've just got to make sure that it's not just a study, and that it doesn't cap it like some bills I've seen that actually cap it beneath $1 million. The great thing about New York State is that because of the financial sector and the extent of the contracts, if you cap it beneath $1 million, it does very little for service-disabled vets. So we want to get rid of any caps. 5% set aside is great. It's higher than 3%. But we want to make sure that this is meaningful, and we allow vets to have meaningful employment, and we allow them to really connect into the billions of dollars available in the financial sector and beyond.
And the governor has had some success with MWBEs, minority and women-owned businesses, exceeded that 20% target in the past year. Would this be entirely separate from that? I mean, could there be conflict that, you know, some of these people competing for contracts in the minority and women-owned business sector would compete with these disabled veterans?
Well, you know, a lot of service-disabled vets, and we're talking about men and women, some of whom are missing a limb or 3-degree burns all over the body. The good news is that 95% of vets that are involved in an attack or hurt in combat, 95% of them do return because of advances in both medical technology as well as vests and whatnot. That said, when they return, we're not doing a very good job of getting them back into the economy. The success of the Minority and Women-Owned program is to be applauded, and we've made sure specifically in our legislation that it would not conflict in any way with that very successful and good program.
And switching gears, it's been about 1 year since the passage of the SAFE Act. That's the governor's landmark gun control law. You did not vote for that law, and you've been a critic of it. The guy who ran against you a year ago, Justin Wagner, he made a comment recently, criticizing you for your vote on that law. Yeah. Where do you see we are a year later? Are we safer because of this law?
Not at all. I mean, I think one of the comments that I made on the floor was that we have done nothing to really go after the real problem. At the end of the day, that legislation was very successful for this governor in the sense of putting him on the front pages. He was in a rush and at a breakneck speed. The legislation, then we found out, turned law enforcement, active law enforcement into criminals. It turned retired law enforcement into criminals. It had a statewide, for all intents and purposes, ban on permits for pistols and otherwise. And we've had to go back and fix the bill because the governor didn't do the hard work in the beginning, being more focused on the politics. A lot of the specifics in the bill were screwed up. I think that had the governor not pushed it through in the middle of the night and had allowed the public to give input, he would have even been better served by having a better piece of legislation. But if you look towards the atrocity that happened in Connecticut, you're talking about a severely unstable, criminally, mentally insane individual. And in New York, we're ripping out the safety nets throughout our communities to provide the services that are necessary. So we really should have put more money and more work into providing a safety net to make sure that atrocities like that don't occur in the future. Unfortunately, we haven't done that.
Now, you've often been mentioned as someone that might one day run for another office, maybe a higher office. I think recently you commented about Putnam County, which you represent, that there's a large vacuum of leadership. Could you see yourself one day running for county executive?
You know, I term limited myself in the Assembly. I certainly have term limited myself in the Senate. So regardless, I'm not going to, be here at 70 years of age. It's just, it is, what it is. I take my office, we work 7 days a week, and I take, every opportunity to accomplish great things for my district every day. And honestly, what I'm going to do, after the budget, my final decision, I know that nobody knows because I don't know at this point, but it'll be a team decision, and I feel very confident that the Republicans and our majority, that we're going to be able to expand that majority in this year. The previous cycle, it was an Obama year and a presidential cycle. I believe that we have a bunch of great candidates, and we're going to be able to expand upon that to actually build upon our majority.
And one last question. I was looking at your district. I believe you represent Mount Kisco, which is where the governor lives. Do you represent the governor in the Senate?
Do you mean geographically or philosophically? Because philosophically, he just said that Catholics and otherwise should probably go find another state, which I found to be interesting. Geographically, I think he does live in my district, but he hasn't invited me to go golf or have me over for a dinner party, which is unfortunate because I would love to do that.
He hasn't called you with any constituent complaints?
He really hasn't, no, except for those crazy conservatives in his district that he wants to make move to Texas, but other than that.
Senator, thanks for joining us today.
Good to be here.